Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we're going to be sitting down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The daily ratings are always fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing. We have 3 newly released, now in theaters films. So we have Lost on a Mountain in Maine, directed by Andrew Boodhoo Neitlinger. We have a movie called Brothers by Max Bartikow. And finally, we have Conclave, directed by Edward Berger. So it's a newly released week, folks. Let's hear what Vince Daly has to say about it. Stay tuned and enjoy the show. Daly, how we doing over there, my friend?
Tommy, boy, how's it going?
It's going okay with me on this side of the table. How was your week of movies?
A week away.
How you been?
Yeah. Folks, I was vacationing this last week. Of course, we posted the special. If you haven't checked out the Halloween special, thought we did a great job with it. So,
yeah, you did a great job with it.
Oh, no, that intro?
I was hanging out.
Yeah, chilling out. But yeah, really, really great special, but also great time away. A little bit thinner of a week. I think initially this was going to maybe be a Zemeckis 5 spot for Here that was coming out with Tom Hanks. And maybe that'll be in the cards. You know, November's a little weird.
It's a lot of work. That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. But still, I'll tell you what, there's a really good movie in here. And I was excited that I could get it in because it was a little hard to come across theaters on vacation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so basically we have a weird array. I don't think actually Brothers was in theaters at one point.
Oh,
but
really? Okay.
If people haven't heard that name, it's Amazon release, so it's on Prime right now, and big actors. Lost on a Mountain in Maine, bit of a good theme for the week. I don't think anyone's heard of the film.
Yeah, including me.
It's in very, very select theaters.
Yeah.
You happen to be in theaters, though, that had it.
Yep.
And then, of course, we do have Conclave, which was kind of talked about, kind of came in real quiet, but proper theater release, proper big actors with a director that's really up and coming, who we're big fans of after All Quiet on the Western Front from 2022.
Absolutely.
We were quite excited for this film, and I was excited for a couple different reasons.
I'm surprised it's not getting more press because, I don't know, Ralph Fiennes himself, Stanley
It's getting
Tucci.
Oscar buzz.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's getting Oscar buzz, but the problem is, one, I don't know, it's not the best month for films. And what's the big what's the big movie out even right now? I can't even think of. But it's just like not a blockbuster movie that you're going to pack the seats with. I think it deserves more people to go see.
Sure.
But it's just, for some reason, it's just not a great month in the theater right now. Venom, of course.
Oh, of course. Boy, I would really love to go to the end of the year without covering Craven, so I could say I avoided every Sony Pictures Marvel release this year.
I love how people shit on Sony so much.
Well, it's just their film division. It's just what they do with this Marvel
That's what I mean.
license.
That's what I mean. We're PS5. We're PS bros. We're Sony bros when it comes to the PlayStation. I owned a PlayStation 3. Okay, so anything you want to start
You
with?
had the George Foreman too. You had the big one.
I had the OG.
Yeah.
And then that finally died on me, and then I got another one.
Oh, okay.
And then that one died on me really fast, and then I just gave up on everything.
Yep.
And then I borrowed somebody's for Uncharted 4, I think.
Yep.
PS4. Anyway, never finished the game, but I love the game. Great game.
I don't know if you want to admit that. That's a dynamite ending. I think we need to put some time on the calendar.
I'm a real fan. See, I'm like a real fan of Uncharted games. It's just like, it's a thing I have with it. It's a personal relationship I have with those games. Right. Anyway, that and Galaga. Those are my video games. Yeah. What can I say?
Go back to our Uncharted review. I think we'll maybe get some thoughts on how much of a fan.
Any opening notes here, Vin? You want to dive into the first film?
We can dive into it.
Okay, so where are we going? Are we going
Lost
to Maine?
on the Mountain?
We're going to Maine.
Yeah,
okay.
we're going to Maine.
So this film is called Lost on a Mountain in Maine. It's based on a book. I'll let you kind of get into it then. But why this film, and how'd you see it, and also, of course, how'd you like it?
Yeah, well, folks, this was just too funny not to cover. I was in Bar Harbor, Maine this past week on vacation with my family, and walking out of seeing Conclave early in the week, I was smacked in the face with this movie.
Oh, with the trailer?
No, with a poster. It really felt like the closest thing I could imagine to like a Truman Show experience of like fabricating a movie to keep me off the mountain, you know? It was like a foreboding warning of just like, it was also early in the week too, because I didn't get like good hikes in just yet. So
Okay,
it was like,
okay.
oh boy, it's the universe is warning me. I mean, you know, I'm not any Bear Grylls or anything. I'm sure there's a more modern person besides Bear Grylls to compare to.
Yeah, I think so. What I liked about it
Bear Grylls
too,
still around?
you sat me. Bear's around. Bear's around. I still like Bear Grylls after everything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm
After
actually
everything.
a fan of Bear. No, you sent the poster to me, and you were like, I gotta cover this, and I was like, I got green flags. Go for it. I'm not gonna fight John.
I was expecting a little pushback on it.
Well, a few weeks ago, I was in Maine, and I was a lost boy in Maine, actually. So it touched home for me, too. But the funny thing is, the reason why we're kind of joking about it, and no one knows about it, it's super, super limited theaters, but because you were in Maine, it's
I
like,
happen to get it.
It's
on opening weekend.
Just go ahead and pick it.
The movie doesn't take place in Acadia, sadly, but the mountain it was on is less than an hour away, so yeah, I definitely had to cover it. Also, in the town was a theater called the Criterion Theater in Bar Harbor. However, it's not connected to Criterion as we know it, and no tie to the collection. Initially, I was a lot more excited for a possible connection here. You know, I didn't know if it was like, not like a pop-up, but Criterion has been experimenting with like a movie truck that goes around that they sell their physical movies with.
Yeah.
And I thought it was maybe like, you know, as a vacation town, they maybe funded this little thing, but it was still cool to go to. I was a lot more excited about the connection of possibly knocking something out like that with seeing this local movie. But Lost on a Mountain in Maine is much more of a family drama than a survival film, and aims at a kind of an uplifting telling of the nonfiction story of Don Fendler. We follow a family governed by a very stern 1930s father, played by Paul Sparks, who I recognize from later seasons of House of Cards. I forget what his character was in House of Cards.
Okay,
but
I dropped off.
Yeah, that's right. Your infinite wisdom when it comes to...
I watched more than one season, though.
Yeah. Their three boys' consolation prize for their father needing to leave after quickly returning home is going on a hike up to the tremendous Mount Katahdin. And, well, let's just say it's not called Back in Time for Supper in Maine. It's something going to be happening here. The story is structured in a day-by-day countdown with real-life interviews spliced in between, giving a kind of a blended drama and documentary vibe, which, despite its attempts at feeling like a real movie, makes it come off like a very large budget TV special, especially with how it's like back and forth of these interview clips.
So it's splicing through. So the real guy, Fedler, died in 2016 at the age of 90. So were these like interviews when he was a kid?
That's interesting. I had trouble finding it. The interviews actually looked... For me, they looked like 70s footage.
Well, they could have been, because this story was like huge in Maine. He went to schools and like talked about it.
Yep.
The governor at some point, I think earlier in the 2000s, dedicated a certain day to him. Like they made it Fedler Day or something like that. Yeah, so I can only imagine how many times he was recorded or like interviews he did with it. It
did all look like from the same, like, not stock footage, but whatever they pulled it from. Because they're also like middle-aged. It wasn't like on death's door or anything like that.
Right.
So... But yeah, an interesting feel. In some ways, I liked the semi-documentary feel, but by combining it with a dramatization with actors and score and trying to be a real movie, but then having these cutaways to the interviews, it was kind of doomed to have a TV movie vibe, you know, like
a Discovery Channel special.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of when kids get lost and found.
Yeah.
Hallmark, jeez.
Well, yeah, it's definitely trying to be uplifting as well.
It is rated PG.
Yeah.
So we're not getting some like horror boy is lost or something. Yeah.
Right. The filming on location is a no-brainer, as the kind of unique rocky terrain and fog sells how threatening threatening this particular stretch of wilderness is. But honestly, in research, once again, I really couldn't find much on this. There's not, the internet nerds aren't populating Wikipedia for the Lost on a Mountain in Maine movie. But I couldn't find if there was a confirmation on if it was actually filmed on location or not. I don't know. Is there anything that you stumbled across?
I couldn't find it. I mean, there wasn't even a Wikipedia page for the film. It was only, or even the book that came out.
Yeah,
based
I think
on
when you search it, you just get Don Fendler.
You get the actual guy, which in itself is interesting.
Yeah.
I want to say that they probably shot in Maine, though.
Yeah. And the execution of the film is pretty straightforward, but kind of an early campfire story scene opens up some creative breathing room for what exactly was the experience for this 12-year-old Don lost on a mountain, where even in the one interview segment we get with Don specifically, he kind of talks about it in very general terms and probably was feverish in a way for him being stranded, no less being young. I feel like it did have some creative breathing room for what exactly happens on the mountain. Acting-wise, not exactly a no-name affair, but kind of a no-name affair. I guess the actor that plays SpongeBob on Broadway is in this, who we'll see later on with Wicked this month.
There were some actors in this that are on the site.
Oh, really?
I will say they were in our database,
Really?
And I was shocked to see it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Story-wise, I thought this was mostly going to be on the kid's shoulder, which kind of made me shake in my boots a little bit.
Of course.
But that's where this family drama structure came in to really split the screen time. I want to say for the better, but honestly, my skin in the game was watching a survival movie. Yes, it's a kid. I mean, wasn't looking for the Revenant. Didn't want this kid crawling into a moose or something. I don't know, whatever Maine wildlife he could fit in. But there was something there that I was like, I wish, honestly, he was given more time. That said, I wouldn't call, I believe his name is Luke David Blum, a bad kid actor, and maybe cutting his time on screen let the movie lead with its best, or his best. I had a problem with some genre there, not so much with the performance itself.
Good. That's something.
Yeah. Overall, though, not a bad movie, but not really great either, predictably. I'm going to lovingly give this a kind of a wishy-washy recommendation, but the best pitch I could come up with is it's a perfectly okay movie for your grandparents to take you to.
Perfect. This and The Fast Indian.
Yeah, World's Fastest Indian.
Yeah.
Maybe we could have a grandparent compilation on site. The first half feels like it's nothing more than a Hallmark movie with its TV-style dramatization, cutting away to interviews. But I will say the emotion kicks into high gear by the second half. While it's still more drama than survival, a few choices made me say that this wasn't a waste of time. We're going to go ahead and give Lost on a Mountain in Maine a 51.
Okay, 50. I gave it a tick above.
That's really the mark of a grandparent watch.
Yeah, I can't really say that. I don't think you're expecting much from it. It's more so, okay, we got to watch this,
Yeah.
And you were on the road, so what can you kind of squeeze in?
Exactly.
Especially with limited theaters around you and stuff.
Yeah.
So, okay, so Lost on a Mountain in Maine with a 51%.
I liked it in the sense of like, it goes back to a very early episode, but one of our, I think, either year one or year two, I did like movies on the road where I just watched kind of like TV movies, like what was literally on TV.
Yeah.
I do like that in the sense of like, I don't know, making the podcast something personal, where it's like, yeah, this is my week of movies, let's just talk about it. So there's something there that I enjoyed. Even though it was kind of like, I'll forget about this tomorrow. So once the notes are gone.
So our next movie then was also easy to watch because it was on Prime. So and Amazon does the thing where they want to make it somewhat Oscar eligible or something like that. So they didn't do it for Roadhouse, but for this they did it. They give it the theater release for a week, and then it comes on to Amazon. So technically, I think this came out a few weeks ago. Came out on Amazon like a week or 2 weeks ago, basically. Okay. But this is called Brothers, and it's a comedy, hour and a half, and it's a stacked cast.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just quick run it down. Josh Brolin, Peter Dinklage, Brendan Fraser, Glenn Close. I think Marissa Tomei, isn't it? Correct?
Oh, really? Yes. She's the crazy.
She's got the monkey.
Yep.
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
So Marissa Tomei, like stacked cast, and Amazon came in and did this.
I would say unusually stacked, for a comedy like this.
And I was excited about it. I think I brought it to your attention because it's like, look at the cast. We love Josh Brolin, Brendan Fraser, comedy. Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
It is rated R, hour and a half. So, Vin, how did get into it? Break it down. I watched this, by the way.
Oh yeah. Well, that's my first note, folks. Tom has been slightly campaigning for this behind the scenes. You brought it up 2 weeks in a row. I was like, all right, well, you must have watched
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Get out of here.
This came out October 17th. Honestly, I've been missing a lot of streaming releases for the second half of the year. Pretty much back to our big 8-slot episode from April. We really haven't touched streaming in quite some time.
There hasn't been too much that has come out.
Yeah.
I mean, there has been some, but there hasn't been as much, I think, as some previous years.
Yeah.
Post-COVID, post-strike.
Absolutely. And I think if anything...
Or while the strike, but yeah.
My skin in the game here was like, well, they got a lot of stars. Let me see what's going on here. So, sadly, I would say even with the ease of watching this and plenty of stars that I would like to see in a dark comedy about crime, I don't know. I felt like this... It felt like the infamous streaming puddle. I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on this?
I just didn't think it was good.
Yeah, almost even a slight touch of a waste of time.
Yes, because the writing was not great. I don't think it was. Well, one, it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And
I'm glad we're on the same page here because I really didn't want to just needlessly
the movie
on this movie.
No, the movie's not funny. It feels kind of shallow, and you might even have it. Almost like the premise has some teeth, and it just needed to be in better capable hands. Like this, give it this, this is a Soderbergh movie.
Oh sure,
give this a Soderbergh. This would be a phenomenal movie.
Right. Absolutely. Hell, even Edgar Wright maybe could make something out. You know what I mean? Just like the crime family of it.
Well, that's why I think of it as a weaker Logan Lucky.
Sure,
and we weren't the biggest fans of Logan Lucky, but there was a lot there.
There
was some foundational stuff there that we liked. That why we love Soderbergh.
Yep.
This was weaker yet, and it wasn't hitting the it was just
absolutely. Our director Max Barbakow comes from 2020's Palm Springs, a movie I haven't seen but was near constantly recommended during COVID within the same breath of people saying, no, but it's really good for a Hulu movie. So probably never going to get around to that. The main writer I was a bit more excited by, despite his name, Ethan Coen has no connection to the Coen brothers.
Yep. He's one H away from being in the family.
Right. And then also I was thinking this is like a crime comedy, I don't know. But he's been part of some decent projects, including 2008's classic Tropic Thunder, 2012's fan favorite, Men in Black 3, and 2022's animated hit, The Bad Guys. So a little excited there. Once again, sadly, a little bit of a miss, unfortunately.
Especially for the writing.
Yeah.
I was walking in this expecting something.
Sure.
One, because of the cast, and I saw that guy's lineup.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh.
Right.
Again, this might have teeth.
Yeah. Nah.
And it doesn't.
It thinks it has teeth, but yeah. Brothers is a dirty road trip crime comedy that honestly might have done better in theaters with its surprising casting picks. We follow two brothers in a family of kind of lovable trailer trash criminals, the Mungers, as they make a living pulling off petty heists and small-time robberies. Peter Dinklage is the mastermind of the duo, while Josh Brolin is the muscle, giving some real Master Blaster vibes from Mad Max Thunderdome. After a stint in the can, Brolin is trying to live a domestic life, with Dinklage continually being haunted by his life of crime, the biggest one on his back being Brendan Fraser, a downright psycho cop that is forcing him into a gem heist that is connected to the Mungers family legacy. The brothers reunite for one more job, if only because no one else has their back, and I mean no one else. Folks, the setup here is in the legacy of comedies like 1988's Twins, where the joke is one big, one little, haha, and equally getting big stars to fill those roles. I've never watched Twins, but maybe that could have been a pairing this week with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, we'll save it because there's a remake coming out.
Oh, no way!
With those two, like Twins 2 is coming out, I believe.
With the same two?
I believe so. Yeah.
Holy shit! Well, nothing will be left sacred. Not even Heat. But comedically, I would say this feels identical to the 2010s formula of scripts where a wacky road trip gives, outrageous moments only to be sandwiched by the usual kind of breakup, makeup plot beats. They have a fight, They get back together, they have a fight, they get back together, and in between are like, whoa, can you believe how crazy it is?
Supposed to be comedy.
Right. I would say if I had to pin the origin of that, it's probably Todd Phillips' Hangover movies that really cemented that, but
you think?
It's tricky because I would say it's definitely in the legacy of like Judd Apatow.
Is that a road trip movie, though?
No, I guess it's not a road trip movie.
What do you think about Little Miss Sunshine?
Oh, well, that's a good example.
That's
of
04.
the formula.
Yeah.
I think that's a great movie, but
04, 06?
Yeah, somewhere
06,
definitely
06,
earlier.
yeah.
It's where it kind of bored me to tears. Sure, you get some chuckles from random humor, but the shell it was in was just so predictable. I think the piece for me is Brolin is constantly checking in with his home life, his wife that doesn't want him to go on this trip and whatnot, and that just felt like, oh my God, this feels like every Jason Sudeikis, what's the guy from Arrested Development?
Jason Bateman.
Yeah, Jason Bateman. It felt like every one of those comedies where it's just like reluctant and one crazy. I don't know. What are some of your thoughts on like The Shell or just
it felt like that, and that's why I felt like if it kind of felt empty because it had the working plot points of something that could have been more funny, could have been more electric, could have having you like. There's something here where it's like, okay, I could see where they were going. Like the rails of it could have this as a really funny comedy that people might even remember a few years from now.
Yeah,
but everything is kind of failing.
Yeah,
like even the acting wasn't even all that superb. The writing wasn't superb, and even everything from whatever the music beats, and it was just all lackluster.
Yeah. Missing a juice, missing a sauce. I don't know if soulless. I was juggling the word soulless for this review.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, for sure.
That might be. I don't know.
Even in Josh Brolin's acting, I just felt it just wasn't. Yeah.
Even Dinklage.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't know. I wanted him to be, I don't know, even sharper as this kind of mastermind of the duo and whatnot. Kind of your Pinky and the Brain vibe. But yeah, just feeling a bit soulless overall. I think. Well, at first I was excited for a fun heist comedy filled with three actors I really like, being, Brolin, Dinklage, and Frasier. I wanted to see how it was weaved into the crime. And once again, it was just kind of, it was on its own little, each little piece of this was on its own little island. I think what I was thinking back to when I saw this, I was thinking back to 2016's The Trust, which I know you were a decent fan of.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that movie.
Where it's kind of like, I don't know, there's something peculiar about the comedy. It's
because it's Nick Cage.
Yeah, you're right.
That's why, because you have Nick Cage, which just makes it.
Yeah, but like the blend of comedy and crime, something's there.
Big time, yeah.
But I think instead what we get is, again, closer to probably countless 2010 examples. The ones that come to mind are like Ride Along and The Heat, where the genre elements of action and crime are just spread so thin between, once again, just predictable plot beats, whether it's checking in at home, how outrageous this is, or the make-up-breakup kind of plot structure. Just wasn't really there. Bottom line, folks, not really funny for me. I will say I chuckled at some of the more ridiculous stuff, like I chuckled at the monkey and whatnot. It was just
you did?
So you didn't at all.
I don't think I chuckled once. Maybe Brendan Fraser.
Yeah,
I think there was one line Brendan Fraser had, and he had me.
That is true. I like seeing Fraser, but it's also like, Frasier, you got to do something good with this spotlight you're in right now. I don't need these type of
grab it
movies.
while it's hot. Yeah, that Oscar's only going to carry you for so long.
Exactly. Especially because like in the years since, like The Whale has kind of gotten a bad reputation as well. But I felt the cookie cutter editing actually robbed some potential of jokes, and its plot beats are all been there, done that. Especially with the domestic family trying to keep Brolin's character back home. Not bad, but honestly, I felt so meh that it actually tips over into the bad side of the puddle. We're gonna go ahead and give Brothers a 48.
Okay, 48, tick below.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Because it's just like...
I'm glad we weren't on opposite sides with this, because I didn't want to be like a stick in the mud on this comedy.
No, come on. Did you think I was going to like this after you saw it?
No, but I was probably like you. I was rooting for it.
Yeah, I wanted this to be good.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't mind Amazon to get into the freaking game a little bit. Amazon is lackluster with its TV and its movies.
Yeah.
And it's like, you guys have so much money. Why are you doing worse than like Paramount Plus? It just doesn't make sense. It's just step up your game. You should be on Apple level now. Come on.
Yep. Maybe they'll find a spot in these turn it off or turn it on and turn your brain off type of comedies. This and Ricky Stenicki kind of in the same boat,
They have the money. I don't know. Come on. You bought MGM, for God's sakes. Like,
So
do something here.
Yeah.
You
redesigned the logo for some reason.
Yeah, 48%. It's just that if you want to put on something mindless and harmless while you're folding the laundry, go ahead, have it in the background.
That's perfect. That's a 48 right there.
Okay, and with that, Vin, let's go ahead into our producer segment because we do have two producers for today.
Excellent.
And we have two producers who are always extremely good friends of ours. So we have Linda Schiller coming in with her monthly donation. That actually came in 2 weeks ago, but we recorded that one a day early. Then it came in. Then we had our special last week. So anyway, Linda came in with her movie ticket, Vin, for you. And then Matt D coming in with the Space Odyssey donation.
That's
so
great.
It's always good to hear from Matt D. And they both sent notes in. So Linda, who is co-executive producer for today, Linda gave a quick note here. She says, I have not seen the movie Saturday Night yet, but while listening to Vinny's discussion about it, I was wondering something. Vin, do you think that if the actual SNL footage of the skits had been injected into the movie after the real and invented behind the scenes with the movie actors were shown, might have added some actual comedy?
Sure, maybe even at minimum a credits roll. You see the side by side or something like that.
Sure.
I think that might have helped it a little bit. Ultimately, though, that would have to really break from this structure of leading up until 11:30. Of that first night of
right,
production.
The whole movie is leading up to the first skit, technically.
Absolutely.
That kind of nostalgia thing, because it really is just a big nostalgia sandwich that they're pulling for. I think you're right. I think something at the credits would have been good. I think during it would have been, too jarring to go from actors playing the characters to seeing characters going back and forth.
Sure. And then there is a line of with this nostalgia, maybe the film even leans into it more. It's not going to get a good ranking from us, but if that's the purpose ultimately for pulling the heartstrings of the original fans of Gen 1, SNL, maybe, I don't know. But overall, I think I would prefer more a cutesy nod towards the end.
Right. Unless I think there's a lot that could have just helped that thing. We were not super hot on that.
Yeah, I almost know second guess saying if it's in the credits or not because we were out of there pretty quick.
We were.
I don't know if we stuck around for the credits to know if they did that or not.
We were out of there. That's right. Maybe they were in there. Who knows?
Yeah, post credit with Chevy Chase.
But during within the film, I don't know if it would have helped it.
Yeah,
it might have just caused more confusion.
Sure.
And they were too busy beating up their own ass anyway. So. But anyway, Linda, thank you so much for your monthly donation. We appreciate it so much. And I wanted. She said that we didn't have to say this, but also being a producer through and through.
Yes.
She hooked us up, and we got a write-up in a local magazine.
Yes.
And all she did was send some emails out, but true producer work.
Yep.
And got us a little write-up in a magazine, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about producership, that's exactly what we mean.
And just went out and did it. Let us know when it was published. We had no idea about it.
Phenomenal.
Very, very cool, and we appreciate it so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Linda. And to our main executive producer of the day, Matt D, once again writing in Space Odyssey donation with the transaction fee.
The gentleman's handshake.
Yeah. That's right. All right, Matt D. Let's see where his knives are out here. Okay. Okay.
I think I got a little bit. I tried not to read these. I got a little bit in the preview. I saw something about respect, so I was like, "Oh, I better not even go in the inbox."
Okay, buckle in. Producer Matt D says, "Put some respect on Carrie Elwes's," and he puts in parentheses Elwes.
Okay.
Elwes is his name. This guy did The Princess Bride, Hot Shots, and Robin Hood Men in Tights before his 31st birthday.
Oh, wow.
He could have retired after that and gone into the Hall of Fame. He voiced 3 Ghibli characters, and how dare you reference your outrageous score for The Princess Bride without calling it out by name? This score is the greatest shame that Daily Ratings has ever and will ever see. Okay, well, okay.
All right, yeah. Hold on.
Okay, Princess Bride.
Yeah, it's definitely a black eye on the site. It's a black eye in the sense that it's going to cause some trouble. We're on the outliers.
And we're both so... we
watched it together.
We watched it together with another friend of ours who was a big proponent of it. Let me tell you something about Princess Bride. Everybody loves this film, and I mean hardcore liberals love this film, and Ted Cruz loves this film.
It's the great unifier. It was,
and then I specifically remember we were watching Princess Bride halfway through, and I just looked over at Vin, and I shot him a look. I had like a furrow brow, I guess.
Like was this supposed to be funny?
Yeah, it was just like, am I missing something? And then Vin just goes, yeah, no. He just real quiet because we didn't want to offend our friend who was watching it in front of us.
Yo.
And we think this. It's. Let me put it this way, Matt D. I think it's inconceivable how you and so many other people love this film so much.
We are on a different planet entirely, and I don't know. Listen, deserve, and probably a few others on the site deserve it of a rewatch. To get it on the podcast, but. It will be a self-inflicted wound. We will be shooting ourselves in the foot just to make enemies online.
I love how he says he did Princess Bride, Hot Shots, Robin Hood, Men in Tights. Do you want? Robin Hood. I remember when I was a child and really liked that movie. I guess deserves a rewatch.
Yeah.
But Princess Bride, just no bueno. It's just not for me and Vin. Apparently, it's for everyone else. Though.
Right. We really are like at odds with everyone.
L. Wes is his name, apparently. Okay. Oh, and then he goes, and don't get me started on Scream. Scream walked so Cabin in the Woods can run.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'd argue we do have to look at films within the lens at the time they came out. If we didn't, then would Citizen Kane be considered that good? We love it for many reasons, but a big one is that they were so far ahead of their time with cinematography. If we only look at Citizen Kane through today's lens, then it wouldn't be at all impressive. The techniques they've invented have been advanced so far that they no longer compare. He goes, great Ghostface killer reference, though.
Good. I'm glad you appreciate that.
This I have to disagree. What do you say?
Yeah, no, I am at odds with this because it's a concept that I reference a lot on the podcast week after week. Is we watch in modern day.
We watch in here now.
Yeah, and I would also disagree specifically with Citizen Kane. I think that movie is good by modern standards and has continued to be good.
I think you watched that right before we launched the podcast.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. In reference to
when we started.
Right.
Which date
unknown.
Unknown. Although I narrowed it down a little bit into a window. But and you were blown away still.
Blown away with it. And I think getting into Citizen Kane, I mean, that is a huge other topic and worthy of a special, obviously.
Of course.
Because that really is probably one of the most clear-cut examples of, I think, good in modern day, good back then. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to Scream specifically, if I had to compare to Cabin in the Woods at a certain point, no spoilers, but becomes its own thing, where Scream is always attached at the hip to these references, to the moments that it detracts from the horror. It detracts from even its own concept. So
you're not buying the Scream walk so Cabin in the Woods can run?
I
not buying it?
I like that as a little elevator pitch. I think Cabin in the Woods...
Buy, sell, or hold? Which
Sell.
one? Okay.
I think I get entirely where you're coming from, and also credit to Scream being a predecessor in that way, so kind of respects there. But I'm telling you, watch Scream again. I mean, that's always why I like reviewing the weeks I watch the movies, right? So it's fresh because I know exactly how I felt about Scream, and I hated it.
Okay. 0-2 here, Matt. I guess we've got some disagreements here. Okay, he finishes up here. He goes, lastly, I need to apologize to Tom.
Whoa!
Hold on, let me do my hair.
Yeah,
let me get ready here.
He's sprucing up.
Wow. Anything I just said, Matt, I take back. I take back. And your shirt looks lovely today, by the way, Matt. Okay, he goes, lastly, I need to apologize to Tom. Let me sit down. Okay.
Bask in it.
In anticipation of watching The Penguin, the new HBO series, I rewatched The Batman and loved it.
Wow.
Top tier Batman movie.
Whoa.
Had issues for sure, but I really loved the noir aesthetic, the score, cinematography, and characterizations.
That score, especially.
The best Bat detective on the big screen. Parentheses, even if his level of competency as a detective varied as the plot needed. So I apologize for poking fun at Tom liking this, although don't expect an apology for The Irishman not happening.
That's great.
Well, this is huge. This
That's
is big.
huge.
This
That's
is
huge.
because I gave the Batman. I think that
was your movie of the year.
That was Golden Laces.
Yeah.
I got Golden Laces 2022.
Yeah.
And I'm happy he finally saw the light.
That's great.
All it needs is a rewatch.
Yeah.
It is a good movie. It does have problems. I'm not going to disagree with him.
Sure.
Because I don't think it was the best movie of the year because that was right. The best movie of the year was All Quiet.
Yes.
Both for you and for me. The Golden Laces. The Batman. Don't forget,
Absolutely.
I felt it needed the extra pat on the back, which is what Matt's doing here. A couple years too late, but that's fine.
Pattinson on the Robert Pattinson
Listen,
pat on the back.
But the water's fine. I'm glad you're over on the right side of this one here, Matt.
The right side of history for the Batman.
I apologize to you for really for saying bad things about the Princess Bride. But someone has to do it, and it's going to be us.
Look at that.
But,
a week defined by division. We're all coming together.
I really did not like The Princess Bride at all, though. I mean, just a terrible movie. And Vin and I are in so lockstep.
We are.
I would love if we
together.
disagreed. I mean, we could spend an entire episode.
It's tough. Well, that's the thing. And like I've referenced before, there's probably a handful of others. Forrest Gump is definitely one where it's like,
yes,
if we went out of our way to cover it, it's just literally to kick the hornet's nest. It's like no one's going to be happy with that, you know? Like it's going to be just to defend our position. Maybe that's
in the
point.
culture somehow too.
Oh, Princess Bride especially.
I know.
My God, recently I heard it referenced in like an all-time greatest type of way.
That's what I'm telling you. But it goes across political bands, ages. I know older men who love the film, and like little girls love this movie. It's
unreal.
Just terrible. Just terrible.
Just terrible.
All respect to Carrie Elwes, though, Matt. All respect to him.
Yeah, no, he's great. And
Robin Wright's beautiful in The Princess Bride.
Sure. Also, like Robin Hood Men in Tights. That's prime for when I tackle a. Why can't I think of his name? The director, Mel Brooks. When we do a Mel Brooks study, you know.
Did he direct that?
Oh yeah.
I think I remember.
That's in like the prime years.
I remember watching it as a kid and liking it. And I make a joke when I was a kid. I liked it. There might be a possibility that I still like it. We'll see. We could just do a Robin Hood special, I think, at this point.
That could be definitely potential. I would like Mel Brooks just because out of tackling comedies, I'm interested in looking at Mel Brooks'
Well, that would be good. I mean, he's getting up there in age. He's still alive. Maybe when we do a special.
A little grim.
Matty, thank you so much for always being a producer, coming in here, give us a laugh, buddy. We love you.
Yes.
Thank you for Linda as well, both producers, co-executive and executive producer for episode 159. Folks, if you want to be an executive producer of episode 160, head to thedailyratings.com and go to the donations tab. So if you're new and wondering what segment this is, obviously, it's a producer segment. We give you a shout out to people who helped, who donated into the show, because that's how you become a legitimate, actual producer. Just like in the movie biz, when you financially support a project, you're a producer of the project, and that's how we're doing it here at the Daily Ratings. It's really, we're going off the value for value model. We're not going to get money off advertising because we're not going to have any advertising. We're not going to have paywalls or tier structures. We're not going to do Patreons where you have to give us money and there's bonus content. All the content is there. But the idea is, if you're enjoying the podcast, if you're using the website, we look at that as value in your pocket. So can you give us value back in our pocket? Value for value. Linda and Matt did that this episode where they sent money our way. They're legitimate producers, actual producer credits to their name. And when you produce, you can send in a note, just as they did. It could be questions, comments, critiques. It could be apologies. Yeah. I mean, anything you want.
I think this was a perfect example of what we want the section of the show to be. It's content. It's equally a film discussion like we talk about in the movie reviews.
This segment is going to build into something special. As we grow an audience and really grow producers and kind of a Daily Ratings family here, this is going to be an incredible segment.
Absolutely.
People coming in with facts or questions. It could be an Ask Us Anything. If you send some value our way.
You got the mic.
And you've got the mic, and it can be whatever you want to talk about. Because we just appreciate it. It's a way to say thanks, and it's a through line. It's communication with you. That's why we're doing it the value for value way and the producer way. Again, head to thedailyratings.com, go to the donations tab, and become a producer for episode 160. Okay, Ben, with that, let's go to the proper film wide release of last week. Very star-studded. Again, a director who's on the up and up, especially for us, who did All Quiet on the Western Front.
I would say whatever his next release was, even going back to 2022, like among our most anticipated.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes. And his name is Edward Berger. This film is called Conclave. Edward Berger, a German guy. All Quiet on the Western Front was all in Germany with German actors. Clearly, he's like in the rising ranks.
Yeah.
Again, star-studded cast. I don't know where you want to start with it, Finn. We'll take it back and forth because we both watched this.
Oh, good. Well, that was actually what was going to start.
Oh, you didn't know?
I figured because obviously you were hyped about this.
You know what? It was last minute, and even my dad asked me to go, or we were going to go together, and I was going to go to a time, and then I didn't want to wait that long. I was looking at the time. I was like, let me look at the times again. This movie started at 10:45. I left my place at 10:44. The moment I sat down, the movie started. It was perfect timing.
That's great. I also, on vacation, I got a glimpse at what it feels like not to have 30 minutes of previews at every AMC theater.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
It was great.
But anyway, so Conclave. Get into it, Vin. We'll go back and forth.
Well, folks, to rip off Gordon Ramsay, finally a good fucking film. I'll be honest, I don't have a good grasp on Oscar predictions for this year, which makes me nervous how much catch-up work will be left for the end of the year. But without a doubt, this movie holds many performances that you will see pepper the nominations in the months to come. Centered to all of this is the wonderful Ralph Fiennes, which, in addition to an iconic acting catalog of work, his role in this stands as truly one of my favorite for him, and might just be the strongest single performance of the year. I don't want to say, until I have a better grasp of what that Oscar list might be, what I think is going to be Best Actor, but this is definitely up there. This is really, really up there. Personally, my hope is that award recognition extends to the filmmaking on display here as well. This comes from one of our favorite surprise directors from year one of the show, Edward Berger. Eddie Berger, I was going to say. Eddie Stacks, Eddie Slider.
Eddie Slider's very good.
The German director not having too many projects under his name, period, no less domestic projects. Clearly, he is using his momentum from 2022's All Quiet on the Western Front remake to pull together a significantly larger production. Also, of course, All Quiet on the Western Front 2022 was our own Best Picture winner for the Tom Dailies that year.
Also a Netflix release.
Yes.
So, shout out to funding the project.
So true. And if anything, that ties back to what I was saying with Brothers, which is I don't want to let too many streaming things slip through the crack because there might be some gems.
I would pick them up. We would pick them up. We're in the news. My entire news feed is just movie stuff. I'm in the water.
We've been you're in the water. That's great. Conclave is a swirling political drama within the Vatican where groups of power, faith, and influence mix together for an election of huge importance. We begin with the reveal of the Pope's death. However, the day of his death is shrouded in mystery and manipulated facts. The burden of his replacement falls on Father Lawrence, played by Fiennes, where the responsibility weighs heavy on the eve of the conclave, one of the most secretive meetings shrouded by the church. This is no straightforward journey, however, as the cardinals that want the position are misguided in various ways, and anyone that deserves it refuse to take on the responsibility. Father Lawrence must balance his duty to the election process, his wavering faith in the church, and most of all, his loyalty to God in navigating the many twists in electing a new pope. I would say the best thing that this does in concept or as the experience is the inner look at the Vatican and this dark dramatic spin to it. It feels gripping in a way that most Oscar bait movies I think would fall short with.
What makes you say that?
I feel like there was something to the political game of information and intrigue and secrets and how that tied into Father Lawrence's character specifically. I don't know. There was something more than just all right, this is a really good dramatic film.
It was smarter
yes.
than maybe what we would get from other people.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. The film, I feel like, is masterful at communicating how hidden this process is to the public's eye. And both of our writers use this to great effect at creating a story, once again, around intrigue and secrets. I've spoke about this in the past, but tell the story that matches your genre. Information and suspicion itself is the payoff for many scenes in this, the action, if you will. So even if this is a capital C Catholic story, it's structured like a political thriller. It's an election process.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's conspiratorial.
Well, they make comments even. There's multiple political comments made by the cardinals as well.
Absolutely. Even how they section them off of what views they represent. Absolutely.
I just want to step in for a second. And this is based on a book.
Oh, really?
I think from somewhere in the 2000s.
Interesting.
I've heard listened to a few reviews. I think twice I heard it reviewed or thought of as an airport book. Almost. You know what I mean?
Interesting. That sounds like a slight to me.
So a lot of it comes from the book. I don't know from scene to scene how exact, but very close, I believe.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't do too much of a dive into the writers themselves, but it would make sense one of the two is adapting and then the original
Exactly. Yeah,
author.
correct.
Yeah. I feel like the situation is also just taken so heavy and with so much gravity. Like, it felt like it was demanding me to pay attention to the many breadcrumbs around our candidates. And that, again, in a way that, an Oscar bait film, like you could say, oh, it's good, but it's kind of forgettable. In this, I so clearly remember little nuggets of information and how they were unfolded for us.
Heavy is a great word. The weight you can feel on the film. Because the way it just, this, again, because there's not much going on.
Sure.
And this is kind of a political thriller-ish. It does come down to the smallest little things can actually mean a lot. So you're hanging on to every single thing.
Yeah.
And when the acting is good, you have Ralph Fiennes heading this, it just adds, it has that intensity to it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love how Father Lawrence's interest in running the tightest ship possible for the Conclave gives us natural spots in the story to see little beats of drama. While he doesn't have a direct interest in unraveling secrets or, as he'll say himself in the film, disqualifying candidates, they are nonetheless discovered through his management and through his duty and are always given new insight to our Pope candidates for better or for worse. Like I said, though, there are many excellent performances here that could easily crowd the nomination block for award season. I feel the large cast is, once again, one of the best parts here because for me, every role demanded a level of power, a level of sophistication, and kind of equal presence. There's an interesting balancing act here that all of these cardinals are immensely powerful men on their own.
Yes.
That can be taken as inspirational. That can be taken as scary in ways. And the film translates that feeling of putting these magnetic personalities in one room, no less what they're vying for, what they're wanting to get out of this interaction. So I felt like there was such an interesting balancing act of it has a big cast, like an Oscar bait film. Yeah, they're all doing a great job, like an Oscar bait film, but there was something more to the composition of this cast of wow, I feel like they are all equally, electric personalities.
They're not throw-ins. They're all utilized really well.
Yeah.
And it showed. So the balance of, not only did you throw big actors in there, and some actors actually that are not too well known, but did a great job.
Yep.
But where they're in there, again, isn't fluff or filler to make it in that Oscar baity type stuff.
Yep.
Everyone's utilized really well. Really well.
Absolutely. Acting wise, it's a real love letter for Ralph Fiennes. But I don't know. I want to kind of toss the mic to you on this. What are your thoughts as far as your favorite actor or who stood out for you?
I just want to compliment the acting in general.
Okay.
Before I really get into the film, what I thought about it.
Sure.
The acting in general was phenomenal. And I would say Ralph Fiennes, it's easy to say Ralph Fiennes too, because he is the main guy, screen time and just scene-wise, he's in it, there's a Cardinal Tedesco.
Yes.
And he plays the Italian Cardinal.
Yes,
Not really
Sergio
well known.
Castelletto,
Yes.
I believe.
I don't think he's in our database, so he's not even anything that we have covered before. Does a great job of what he has to do. Even just the way he sucks on his vape. I mean, he's almost like a laugh line sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then John Lithgow is playing John Lithgow.
But also, really good John Lithgow.
I kind of feel that John Lithgow in his later age is just like, hey, if you need the grandfather who doesn't quite know what's going on, whether it's this or whether it's Interstellar or whether it's Daddy's Home or whatever that the movie's called, it's just put Jonathan Lithgow in there.
Yeah.
He's good, but it's John Lithgow.
He's available.
Listen, Stanley Tucci.
Okay, here we
if
go.
we're throwing out apologies today, okay, I owe a huge apology to Stanley
Really?
Tucci. 5 years ago, you asked me what I think about Stanley Tucci, and I have very negative things to say. Not a fan, can't connect to the guy.
Yep.
When I say I am on the Stanley Tucci train, I may be. It's not choo choo, it's tooch tooch, and I might be the conductor. I
Wow.
freaking love Stanley Tucci.
Wow.
You know what put me? First of all, it's been increasing. It's been
Yes.
climbing big time, especially since we started the podcast. Okay,
This ramping up.
you know what sealed the deal?
What, his cooking show?
No, when I watched that first, I can't remember if it was the first one or the second one, but I think it was that first Transformers Mark Wahlberg movie. The only good thing in that horrible,
Stanley Tucci.
wretched movie, I kept on watching. I kept on the channel because Tucci ate. I mean, he was physically chewing the scenery.
That's so
He was
good.
electric, and I was watching with our one mutual buddy, and we were every single scene he owned. It was a shitty movie, and he was brilliant in that movie.
Holy smokes.
And then I see him in this, and he's
I love that. That's the top. That's the front of the train.
well, no, that's what sealed the deal. It's the straw
Yeah.
that broke the beautiful camel's back, and just it was glorious with Stanley Tucci. So he was great in this.
Yes.
I would say Ralph Fiennes, the Tooch, and maybe the guy who played Cardinal Tedesco.
Yes.
I want to make a point to say that's right, Tucci. So Tucci is in my top 3 favorite traveling cooking shows.
Yes.
So
kind of in like the legacy of Bourdain, it feels
well,
like.
Bourdain number 1,
Yeah, sure.
and then rivaling for 2 or 3 was the Emeril Lagasse one. In fact, one of the best things Amazon ever did.
You've always repped it.
One of the best things Amazon ever did.
Yeah.
It was one of the first originals they had back in 2016.
Yep.
They gave Emerald a show, and Emerald Traveling. It lasted 1 season. No one talked about it. I freaking love it. It won an Emmy. I just wanted to be said.
Oh, really?
It won
Really?
an Emmy.
Wow.
And then it went away, and I'm like, why?
And this was Amazon?
He's still, yeah, and I'm sure you can still get it.
Look at that.
I'm sure it's
just more mismanagement from Amazon.
Yeah, it's like, why is he still selling the toasters? Like, this was such a good show. But Tucci's Italy-focused show, which I
yes.
believe was CNN, phenomenal. And, like, Tucci is wonderful. And now,
Yes.
I mean, I'm barely on social media, but I get Tucci once in a while. I just saw he was scraping and cleaning his cutting board.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm on the Tucci train.
So I'm glad.
So-
we gotta watch Big Night now. we gotta.
I watched it
revisit
recently.
that.
I mean, he's phenomenal. in
Yeah,
it. I mean,
yeah.
I've really come around to that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what I think of the acting.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm totally with you on Cardinal or Father Tedesco. Sergio Castelletto. I immediately looked him up after the film because I was like, "What is this guy in?" He's in a lot of foreign stuff.
Yeah, foreign.
But wow, really like a scene stealer in a lot of ways.
He does take it.
My
I
note was
forgot.
that Stanley Tucci was great, and I would like him to be the best Italian in the film, but it's Sergio
He's in there.
Castello.
Yeah. Tucci is the American. I totally forgot out Lucian Masmati, and he was playing Cardinal Idiemi.
Yes.
Also
Surprisingly
very good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what everyone was good, and the sister. I don't want to lay out Isabella Rossellini.
Sure.
She plays the sister.
Sure.
But it's a Cardinal focused film.
Yeah,
so, you know.
and I think that's where it deserves credit versus the huge amount of like, wow, really good cast, really good acting. Here there was, again, something in the composition of how they feel all in one room, acting their asses off, you know?
Oh, yeah.
There was something there. Ralph Fiennes, though, truly, truly great, and just such a perfect match for the role. He has a quietness about him. He has a vulnerability about him. And this character has just the utmost concern with his duty to this process, but still thrusted into the game of personalities that the election brings out. You know, I use the word virtuous here, not to indicate the religious spin of the character, but to highlight his struggles and how his arc is overcoming them. You know, by no means is he a bulletproof protagonist at all. Father Lawrence actually has the utmost faith in God, but still struggles with the faith in the church and in this process. And his task is only opening that wound further. His character is just in such an interesting spot of he wants to love everything around him. He wants to love this duty. But the more he discovers, the more he upholds the duty of the conclave, the more he sees.
It's tearing him down.
Exactly. The more he gets disillusioned with the church. I really thought like a tremendous main character, like the type of main character that is deserved of like, wow, like that's a performance. And then just the match of Fiennes' tenderness and soft-spokenness to it. Just such an interesting match. My only other note, in addition to some of your notes, was John Lithgow. Did you gather any kind of villainous spin to his elderly grandfather routine? Like, did you feel that, I don't know, he was trying to bake that into his performance at all?
Maybe a little bit. I don't want to undercut him. He was just like, I don't know, if I had to feel like one was the odd man out, he kind of felt like Jonathan Lithgow playing a cardinal, where these other guys like kind of fit into it a little bit more.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So he was great. He was great.
Sure.
I do think he played his character well, maybe getting into some of those themes that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But not as good as everybody else. Jonathan Lithgow has a gumbiness to him. That I see
perfect.
as goofy grandpa than I do serious cardinal.
Yes, and even in this role of a cardinal, like, I don't know, I was saying to myself, like, would I rather he try an Italian accent? You know, would I rather he
I would have put that on Tucci, yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, Lithgow was just more of a surprise than anything, just because of how the character was not a villain. You know, none of these characters are necessarily antagonists in some way.
There's one.
Sure, but
there's one dark horse.
That's true. But the shiftiness of it felt, I don't know, interesting. I just didn't expect it for the role. I love this movie, but I can't help but have a few gripes that I would think it holds it back from a must-watch. And again, when I get to talking about movies I love, I really don't want to get in the habit of, you know, it's got to have a chip on it. It's got to have an issue with it. I'm not just nitpicking for no reason, but there are some areas here that I felt strongly enough that it's not getting to the top.
It's how you felt, yeah.
Yeah. I would say the music is very loud and in your face, and par for the course for our director's style. I feel like where this was lacking, the modern spin that made All Quiet's use of the score so interesting here was just kind of like a loud score, you know.
Wow, I might disagree with. Now, were you listening to the score when you were writing?
I was.
I felt like when it was loud during transferring scenes or for beautiful shots, it was.
Sure.
But I felt like they got silent down really well.
Okay.
So when they needed to be silent, well, my biggest thing, and we brought it up recently, I can't stand filler these days in movies because it cheapens everything.
Yep.
And I think music was done tastefully, where when it's time to play music, we're playing the music, but when there's time to be silent because we're dealing with something, it's going to be dead quiet.
That's a good point. That's a very good point, because like if you think like the either when they're giving secrets information or like deliberation, it's not really playing the music.
Right.
So I'm with you there.
I think it was tastefully done.
Yeah. I kind of wish language was used a little bit differently. It's hard to summarize, and obviously you've seen it, so you maybe know a little bit better of what I'm referring to here, but English is used in a way to emphasize certain things in the script. And it just kind of felt unnatural among the countless authentic touches to the film. You know, this movie, I feel like, could pride itself to really giving a view of like inside the Vatican, of like whatever that would mean. Here, it just like, even when any character is getting a monologue or they're going on a rant in some way, they would often emphasize their last lines in English. And it's just like, I don't know, it felt...
That's interesting.
There was something there that was just like, I don't know.
Kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. Last but not least, I would say I would honestly love to talk about the ending with you. What I will say about the ending is it's not really a matter with the story content, but I would say the story slightly falls into a Django Unchained syndrome, where the ending just goes on a bit longer than it needed to and kind of chips away at the experience. I personally didn't have a problem with where this went. I think it's all just in the rhythm of where it goes. You know, not so much an issue with runtime. It's clocking in at an even 2 hours, so that's really not the issue here.
Yeah.
But just there is a ramp in the film to, you know, the outcome of the election. And there's even a really great moment that it feels like it's going to go out on. And then the ending is just a very small stumble in pacing towards the end. I don't know. What were some of your thoughts? You know,
I didn't...
limited without spoilers.
Yeah, I don't know how much you want me to talk about the whole thing, basically, but... Where I agree with you is it is a stumble and it didn't need to go there. Where I disagree with you, where it's just I didn't mind the content. I was sitting there saying, okay, if I was using Vinny's words, I would say, you know, a little too on the nose. Sitting there, as soon as it happens, I'm going, a little too on the nose there, fellas.
That's true.
And my thing is, my overall thoughts of the I don't know, can I get into kind of overall what I thought about it? Okay.
Absolutely.
I, as the resident Catholic, kind of, as are you, but as the resident Catholic of the podcast and guy who doesn't mind going against the grain and enjoys it a bit, Not that I'm practicing Catholic, but
Right,
I've
right.
definitely went to Catholic school and everything like that.
Sure.
And
this is in our demographic.
right, and I've had a very good, relatively positive experience with the Catholic Church.
Sure.
I don't have the issues that everybody has with it. I understand that there's issues with the Catholic Church. I'm not saying that. I understand everything, and from Spotlight to articles and the actual stuff that's going on.
Sure.
Yada yada. I just am
I
not.
love that you go back to Spotlight because that's a movie you have like a hardcore.
But I purposely bring it up because I went and listened to a bunch of reviews on this.
Okay.
And it's just like, when it comes to the religious world, there is no love in the movie critic world to the religious world. So just like, I was listening to people and just actively saying how they don't know anything about the religion, they're not about the religion, and then going and critiquing and say, well, clearly they're talking about like, oh, well, clearly like the Catholic Church needs to be doing this. The Catholic Church needs to be actually commenting
they were
on
like
stuff.
talking about process of the conclave.
Process or what they need to do, how they need to modernize, just like
interesting.
everything. And it's just like, well, if you're self-described, don't know anything and don't like it,
maybe just don't comment on it.
right?
You know,
I would. That's the thing. So it is very popular in modern day cinema for love of cinema and for movie critics to just bash on the Catholic Church.
Sure.
It's low-hanging fruit at this point a little bit, and it's always the bad and never the good talked about, and that's where I want to stand up for it a little bit. This film, first and foremost, is a movie of performances, and the performances are phenomenal, which we touched on. The writing is really good. It looks beautiful. The cinematographer is incredible.
yeah, some of those shots, especially when they're closing the Vatican down
Yes.
for the. I mean, wow,
Some beautiful
the
shots.
The umbrella shot when they're all proceeding, amazing.
And I think shot on film, which made a difference.
Sure.
I was actively being like, if this was shot on digital, it would look worse. So just like good decisions being made there.
Yeah.
Even with, so my thing is, the secrecy of the Catholic Church is truly fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's weird, and you don't really know, and we still don't know. And it's actually such a big topic, I personally don't even have time to like delve into it.
Sure.
But it's still fascinating. Even down to the Da Vinci Code movies. It's like, I'm down.
I was gonna.
But it's true, but it's all part of it. And so, like, I know there's dark stuff. I know the interior politics of it and some stuff. I just haven't had the time to go down the rabbit hole because I know how large it is and how much I would need to read on it.
Yeah.
So it does fascinate me. I know there's dark politics going on. I know that stuff. The structure of the church of problems is kind of sometimes separated from the actual faith of it all. And I actually like that's talked about in the film.
Yes. That's why I thought this was a dynamite story, because it's like, well, we don't know heads or tails what happens behind the closed doors or in the conclave. So like that's good real estate for storytelling.
But the image that is shown is all the bad and none of the good.
Oh,
so
okay.
it is that.
Okay.
Now, for a lot of the film, I'm in and I'm watching it. And even when you're touching on stuff where it's like, well, of course we have to bring this up. Of course we have to bring this up. I'm not mad about it, and they're doing it in a right way. And I'm not saying everything's perfect, as I give 1,000 caveats to this. But it's more so like, I think it could have been done a bit better. Then we get to the end, and that's when it's like a little too on the nose, a bit too much.
Okay.
And I would say,
where you're saying you had a problem with the content, the story decisions, rather
it's just
than
like,
the pacing and whatnot.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I did have problems. It did kind of sputter out.
You're with me on the Django Unchained kind of.
It's too much.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
It's just like you had it, and then you kind of soiled it.
Yes, I agree with you on that. Well, where we disagree is you didn't mind the content, and for me, it's just like, okay, so let's just keep on piling on here.
Okay.
And I would say you really had something good at drama. First of all, it is a rated PG drama.
It's PG?
There's no cursing because they're all priests and cardinals, which I find awesome. Like, you have this dark noir political,
spiraling
thriller.
almost thriller. Yeah,
it's getting Oscar buzz.
I think it's called or it's described as a conspiracy thriller, which is interesting.
And it's rated PG. Like, I love this movie for so many different reasons, because it's different, and films like this aren't made.
Yeah,
it just goes a little bit maybe in too far one direction. I did really like a lot of this film. I was left with a bad taste in my mouth. I don't want to bash it though. I will say that if you are Christian and you finally think you maybe have a movie to actually go see, if you're Catholic.
Right, not the Catholic cool subgenre of horror.
Right, an actual, because there's not a lot out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of Catholic movies that come out are lower budget and never good. Angel Studios trying to work their way past that. But if you think that this is a movie to go see, I would say you're probably going to hate this movie and probably should hate the movie.
Interesting.
Because, when it constantly is getting slightly misrepresented, or again, only looking in one lens and not the other, that's when it's, I don't think, for actual true practicing for Catholics.
Interesting. I think...
is that too in the weeds? Is that
No. I like the perspective, especially on the heads or tails of the ending itself, because it is going to be polarizing.
I do feel the need to fight against what I'm also seeing out there.
Sure.
This is the one thing I'm just like, I actually want to see what's being talked about critic-wise.
Oh, okay.
Because,
again,
again,
I've been totally in the dark with this.
And I don't mind stepping into this water at all, personally. Because, again, I have a lot of respect and just so many people I know when it comes to that faith.
Sure.
I have so much respect for it. Obviously, not discounting the negatives that have come along with it. I feel like I'm kind of in between both camps when it comes to this film and my enjoyment of it.
Interesting.
I don't hate it. There's elements I did not like, and there's elements that I'm just like, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know?
I could definitely understand that conflict. One piece that you said was like the discussions within the Cardinals themselves, maybe focusing too much on the negative. I would push back on that just slightly, just because it felt like these Cardinals are all getting together to problem solve. They have an issue of getting a new pope. So in talking about all the wounds of the church, all the issues, maybe I could see where it could be like, oh, maybe it's just like too much. There's just too much of it. But I also don't know if the Cardinals in this specific gathering would be there to, to promote or there to talk about the wins of the church or anything like that. So I think in that way, I was all right with it being... I don't know, sticking with that spiraling thriller. It's odd to call it a thriller.
It is, but it is a darker political thriller.
Yeah, it felt like House of Cards in the Vatican.
Yeah. And it kind of is. So in that aspect, I was loving it.
Yeah,
and again, because I do remember being in Catholic school and having the changing of the Pope and there actually being a conclave. And it is fascinating because it's so much much secrecy.
Right.
And putting a lens in there and them, the way they did their sets and everything, how real everything feels. It's fun. It's great to be in the film.
Yes. And I think that's for me, regardless of really any of the story content, that writing-wise, let's put interesting characters, compelling characters,
big time,
in something that no one really knows. That's excellent real estate. I just feel like as a writing tool. So that's where I was about it. Even though I'm with you, I mean, there was moments where it's just like, all right, a little bit over the head, or if anything, what I've been saying, it is kind of overcoming its Oscar baitiness, but at the same time, it's still very much in
Oscar baitiness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and as far as Berger's previous work, All Quiet did not feel like that at all. All Quiet felt like a totally different ballpark.
As far as it didn't get the recognition, like I felt like one of the. That was an Oscar-worthy film.
Oh, yeah. But exactly? Maybe just not gunning for it in the way that this feels like it's gunning for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel the line there being Oscar bait, intentionally going for award season versus just being, a film on its own and excellent. But folks, for your navigation of this, I would say, again, there's just something to the ending that... slight bit of a stumble. It's hard to say it because I feel like there are such excellent art parts of this. I'm with you 100%, Tom. It's just like, I don't want to bash this film. That's how I even introduced that little segment of just like, I'm not, I'm saying this is great across the board. I'm not trying to just nitpick for no reason, but I need to communicate why it's not a must watch or something like that, But folks, I'm very happy to say I still think it is something that you should definitely make time for this year. And I'd be shocked to see it doesn't get anything during awards season. And I really do come back specifically for Ralph Fiennes. For fans of him, it is probably close to a must-watch for you. Like, if I know people that Ralph Fiennes is like their favorite actor, and just like that's a must-watch in that sense. He's killing it. While it might lack his signature villainous presence in roles like Voldemort or Lieutenant Goot, while it might lean to his comedic chops, like we see it in Grand Budapest Hotel or even in Bruges. I was waiting for him to say, "You're an inanimate fucking object." It is without a doubt, though, a role that he brought just so much care and consideration to, and deservedly up there with one of his best. We're going to go ahead and give Conclave an 81.
81%. Woo-hoo-hoo.
That was one of the best of the year for sure.
And you know what? It's good because I feel like we haven't had like great movies coming out that were new because we had some good spring. Like,
sure,
there's actually some stuff that we were digging.
Absolutely.
So 81%, really good. And I kind of thought you were going to be right around here.
Yeah.
And I'm coming down lower because again, there was a chance for me to walk out of here skipping and singing and like loving this film.
Yeah.
I didn't come away cursing at the film, but I came away with a bad taste in my mouth.
Sure.
And and that's where I feel like I'm in this middle road of these two camps that I
think that perspective is valid because I think either way, either the call heads or tails on if the story kind of that last couple story beats doesn't really sit with you. I still think pacing wise, there's and the film in general some gas.
Yes, no, for sure. But I think I want to see this at the Oscars because I want to see the performances. I mean, this is it's a who's who of supporting actors and potential Oscar nominations. With that, and I can't say enough about the team that this guy surrounds himself with because I liked the music and thought it was good, and the cinematography and editing. I just thought it was this guy that kind of came from not a whole lot. Yeah, it's just putting.
He's a little bit of an older dude, but like he's killing it.
He's middle aged, I think he's 50s. Yeah, but he's putting together some really quality stuff on screen, and I think like better quality stuff than maybe we'll get in a few weeks with Gladiator 2 type of stuff. Like better quality than Napoleon last year. Not to shit on a certain director, but. Yeah, there's quality in here. Yeah. I cannot, but I'm still walking away saying like I cannot wait to see his next thing.
And that's where we were for the first one.
What a weird. Again, it's a PG political church drama.
Yeah.
Why does this even exist? And yet it does, and I like that.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So that was a longer review there, Vin. Looking at these scores or this week, anything you want to touch on or add? Anything looking to its future? Roll credits. What do you want to do?
Well, coming up, I think we're probably doing another 3 spot for next week. We got Heretic, which looks campy, but it's getting good buzz. Elevation is getting no buzz, but it's a sci-fi, and an Amazon release that was released earlier in this year, an anime called Look Back. Some talent coming over from excellent new anime, or recently new anime called Chainsaw Man. Looks to be, I don't know, maybe gunning for some Ghibli vibes to it. I'm interested by it. I also probably will circle back for Here, even though we're not doing the Zemeckis study. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Did you watch Here?
No, I didn't. Well, I knew you weren't covering it. Yeah. But it's not doing great in theaters.
Yeah, it's getting weird reviews on it.
I heard some positive stuff.
Oh, yeah?
It's just like the theaters is god awful. Like Conclave did terrible. Here did terrible. But I think there might be something there. It is Tom Hanks. It is Robin Wright reuniting. And I would be interested just to see what Zemeckis is up to with the tech.
Yeah, it's another gimmick movie for sure.
Right.
You know, with this single perspective or whatever it is.
I think gimmick might be a little harsh for a big director like him. I think he genuinely always likes pushing a boundary and trying to do different. And sometimes it hits and sometimes it does not. Yeah. But he has been doing it since the late 80s.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to be the point of the 5 spot too.
Yeah.
Like, even looking at Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like who's making this guy do these things?
Right,
you
right.
know?
All right. Yeah. So anyway, interesting week next week, and then after that, I think we still have some big stuff starts coming out.
Yeah, excited for later on in November. And like you said, Gladiator 2, where I'm excited for a Scott study because he's only got one film this year.
Yeah, just one. Okay, Vin, thank you so much for watching these. Even while you're on vacation, Vin, you got it done. Watch these 3 movies. Thanks for stopping by here tonight. Folks at home, we'll run it down one more time. We have Lost on a Mountain in Maine with a 51%, Brothers with a 48%, and Conclave with a big 81%. So, folks, thank you so much for listening. As always, thank you for our 2 producers this week, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. And hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would give us a good rating, or get the word out and tell a friend about us. And just a reminder that the Daily Ratings is completely producer supported. We want to stay away from advertising, and we don't want to have any paywalls or tier structures or subscriptions. It's all just value for value. So, are you finding value in what we're doing here at the Daily Ratings? Then become a producer and donate whatever amount of value that is. Just go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com, and while you're there, be sure to check out the massive amount of films that Vince has rated. So thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.